Olympus Watches is a company that my partner Chris and I founded, I would like to say about 10 months ago, after we were impacted by Harvey. And Chris and I were both making watches to begin with. We own another company called Madasi, and we both also take a huge interest in exotic cars, and we both love just the ins and outs of these, supercars. And we had this idea to create Olympus Watches before Harvey hit. But after Harvey hit, we realized that there are so many cars, millions of dollars of exotic cars actually, that got flooded and totaled in the entire process. And for us, it seemed like it was a waste to just, let it go into the junkyards and recycling centers. And so we decided to piece all of these ideas together, and that's how we came up with a watch that is made from exotic cars, but also benefits Houston in a way where we can put some money back into the community through Habitat for Humanity as well. We started Olympus Watches for a couple of reasons, and the first reason was we already have experience making watches with Madasi, and afterwards we wanted to create something that was more special and had ties to the Houstonian community because we wanted to be more involved here. And so when Harvey hit, that's when it really impacted us and got us to take the next step to bring Olympus to life. I heard about Liftoff Houston through the email blast that SCORE sent out, and it just came by coincidence because I heard about SCORE just maybe 2 weeks prior to the email blast from Liftoff being sent out. So basically it just happened by chance, and I remember flying almost last minute to get in. It was probably on the last day. My experience from beginning to end was incredible. The biggest thing that I got out of this whole experience was the opportunity to speak to so many educated mentors that SCORE had to offer. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. I'd like to give a shout out to Mr. Aziz Amin and Mr. Mike Davis and Mr. Stanley, just all of these mentors that I've spoken to throughout my entire process, and they helped me from beginning to end, from creating a good business plan to setting the cash flow, and all of these things. I couldn't have gotten to where I am without them. My experience being as a young business person, I was at first, my first business was, I think, when I was in middle school. It wasn't with real money, so I played Neopets a lot. I'm sure a lot of people did, and I wanted to sell my items on Neopets, so I learned HTML and I coded HTML into my storefront, which helped me sell my items. And then it kind of got noticed, and then I decided to code HTML for other kids who didn't know how to do it. And it ended up getting my account banned because you're not supposed to conduct business on Neopets. But that was my first experience as, I guess, a business person. And at the time, my parents weren't very happy because I was spending a lot of time learning coding and not doing my homework. So my earliest business experiences were met with a little bit of an obstacle because my parents really wanted me to focus on my school. But I always knew that this is the route that I want to go down. So it's always very exciting. Doesn't matter how hard it gets. I get excited just thinking about working on my own projects rather than working for someone else. My travels definitely helped me to become a better business person for a couple of reasons. First reason is I had my eyes opened by moving from country to country. When I was just 4.5, I lived in Japan with my family before moving here to the US. And for me, every single time I move to a different country, it's culture shock over and over again, because just people's way of thinking and their way of communicating and all sorts of things, they're just very different. And for me, it opened up so many perspectives in that sense, and I have now what I think to be a more worldly perspective because of that. Another reason is when you move to a different country, you can only be reliant on yourself. When we first moved here, we didn't speak the language, we had no access to welfare or anything, we didn't have friends, we had maybe a couple family members here, and at a very young age, I was 6.5, 7 when I first moved here, and so I had to learn how to speak the language first. And in order to do that, I had to also learn facial expressions, because facial expressions are very different here in the West. And so before I learned how to speak the language, I learned how to read body language, and whether or not what I'm saying is offending anyone, for example. And because of that, I picked up a lot on emotional intelligence as a kid, and that helped me throughout my years understanding how to negotiate a business deal, for example. And yeah, all in all, it's very helpful. My most important lesson that I learned as an entrepreneur is the importance of believing in yourself and the importance of leveraging the help around you. These are two very important lessons that I've learned, because one, no matter how smart or strong you are, you cannot do something like starting a business on your own. And two, there are going to be days where you're doubting yourself and you're asking yourself, is it worth it? I could very much go back to a 9-to-5 and live a comfortable life. Why am I doing this? Why am I eating ramen every night? But I am, because I believe that I can do something and make something of my own. And I have to keep following that dream, because that's what I believe in. I don't want to be lying on my deathbed one day thinking, oh, there's that business that I started 20 years ago, 30 years ago that I never followed up on. The library has been really helpful to me through this entire process, and for anyone, the library is just a gem. I know the library is not getting as much publicity as it used to, because we're all reading off of our phones now, and the internet exists, Wikipedia exists, but the library is such a helpful tool, and it has access to so many things like the internet that a lot of people don't have at home. They have access to information that you cannot get elsewhere, and programs like the SBA and all of these events that they put together for entrepreneurs just like us. And throughout this entire time, it's been so helpful for all the contestants of Liftoff. I want to give one last shout out to some of the most important people in this program that helped me immensely. Number one, Sharon Fletcher. She's been the guiding hand in this entire process. She's just a lovely lady, very warm, and she has helped us so much throughout this entire process. Another one is Abigail Gonzalez, a very sweet girl. She's so responsive to any questions I had, and she's always there for us, answering any of our questions, and also all the workshop leaders that helped us get a new perspective on how to start a business and how to write a business plan. And lastly, of course, Mayor Turner for being so supportive in this event and helping to publicize it, getting my eyes on this event. I wouldn't have known about it if it wasn't for Mayor Turner. And just check out our website, olympuswatches.co. It's coming soon in a couple of weeks.